my room was the casino. I didn't go to any classes. So I went all that money at them and some. But do you think I stopped? No. Nope. I lost all that money back that I won, the money that I said I was going to win.
That night.
That same night, within a couple hours. Yeah. And they said, I smell liquor. We're going to do a sobriety field test. They took me out, did the test. I had to blow in the breathalyzer. And at that point, I began to plead with these officers and I asked them for some grace.
All right. Hey, everybody. My guest today, someone who is in recovery from a few different things. I've known Malik. We've been on the Lived Experience Advisory Panel. Shout out to Jody. We've been on that for a few months. You've been on my radar. I'm excited to have you on the Modern Meeting. Malik Keene, welcome to the podcast. How you doing, bud?
Hey, Adam, I'm doing good, man. Thank you for having me here. It's definitely an honor to be on the Modern Meeting podcast.
Love it.
So I appreciate this opportunity.
Absolutely. And so, like I do with a lot of, the people that I meet on these, panels and these different groups, I hear bits and pieces of your story, but I purposely, I shot you a message. I said, hey, your voice is, I get a good vibe from certain people. I mean, I love everybody, but, people that I'm like, oof, that if they're willing to come on the podcast, I feel like they have a story to tell. And I still don't know your story. I'm so excited to hear it. So let's dive in. Tell us, let's go back to the beginning. Tell us about your upbringing and, when did you start struggling with, whatever you started struggling with?
Yeah, definitely. Grew up in Washington, D.C. for my first couple of years. And then we moved right out to Maryland, Prince George's County, Maryland. And, great childhood. I'm the youngest of 3 siblings. And, growing up, it was just a loving atmosphere. My parents, they're still together. They've been married for it'll be 60 years in March, actually.
Holy shit.
I thank God.
Shout out to your parents. That's amazing.
Yeah, man. So, just having that model and a close-knit family, the trauma started when I was going to a private school and I skipped 6th grade. I went from 5th grade from the private school to 7th grade in public school. And that was the shock trauma, man. I was shell shocked because now I'm going to a place where I just saw, like, that's when the bullying began. I was different, coming from a private school. And then I was overweight. So, I was teased for that. And it did something to my self-esteem, man. It did something to those insecurities started developing at that age. And it developed a chip on my shoulder, to be honest, because I always wanted, even being the youngest of 3, I wanted that acceptance. I wanted to be validated. So that really hurt me going to that middle school and to be treated that way. And it really trickled it going into high school. Like I said, I was always competitive. So it put something in me to say, man, you know what? I'm going to show them. So I ended up starting to play basketball in middle school. And I remember the last time that the guy tried to bully me, and I stood up for myself and I said, that's not happening no more. And I began to fight for myself. And then going into high school, I started playing basketball and I lost some weight. And the good thing about high school was my sister was in 11th grade, my 9th grade year, and my brother graduated the year before I got to high school. So I knew all of his friends who were seniors now. So they kind of took me under their wing and I became real popular. I started a band. I was playing basketball and I knew my friends, my sister's friends, and my brother's friends. So that popularity, I was like, wow, this is awesome. And that's when I was introduced. Well, actually, even before that, let me backtrack. I started playing cards in like that transition from middle school to high school that summer. I started playing a game called Tunk and Spades. And I love cards. And it was just so crazy because it felt like I could never lose. So I was gambling, dollars. Then gambling maybe $10 on the spades games. So the bug had already hit me. So when I got to high school, I just began to party. That's when drinking, alcohol, smoking cigarettes came into play, and a lot of gambling too on the side. So from there, yeah, went through high school, pretty much partied from ninth, 10th grade all the way to my senior year when I was barely going to class at all.
Mm.
And just a lot of drinking, smoking cigarettes, and gambling going on.
So just to go back a couple questions. So when you were getting bullied, you're overweight. Were you kind of suffering in silence, or did you go home and tell your family about it? Like, how did you deal with that, the initial bullying?
Well, that's a good question, Adam. Like I definitely told my mom and dad because I hated that middle school. I hated it. And I
Yeah.
told them I wanted to go back to the private school. I would go home crying every day and told them I hated it there. I want to go back. But thank God they didn't let me go back.
Yeah.
I had to grow up and learn what it meant to go through that adversity. So, they were compassionate, but they were saying, no, you're gonna have to go through this. So
And
yeah,
so what ultimately made you stand up to the bully?
just tired of it, man.
Yeah.
Like, you're walking down the hall and I would be walking down the hall, then someone, because I was naive. I was green, as they would say. So I didn't know about the public school street code and the things they were doing. And somebody would call me in the bathroom. I'll go in the bathroom, I'll just get hit in my face. And I'm like, what's going on? You know, they're trying to take my lunch money and stuff like that. And so one day I just had enough. And I was
Yeah.
like, you know what? That's it. And ever since then, I said, I can't allow that to happen anymore. I'm going to stand up for myself no matter what it means.
Yeah. In your opinion, having gone through that, what do you think is worse? The old school type of bullying that you went through or the cyberbullying that happens today?
Woo, that's a great point. Honestly, that's
Yeah.
a great point. Like, I think I think they're different,
Yeah.
but they're both bad. Like, I think actually I would say the new bullying, the cyber bullying,
Yeah.
because we live in such a place now. Like, I couldn't imagine going to school and being just outside hanging out and everything's being recorded. So
Yeah.
all my shortcomings, all my flaws, all of the teasing, the bullying, that stuff is being recorded, now. And then, people are the younger crowd, they're looking and comparing themselves with everything that they see on social media. So it really is damaging them,
Yeah.
because they feel like they're not adding up, or they're not worthy, or they're not being accepted. So I would say the bullying now that's going on.
Yeah. Cause that's the thing. It's like, at least when you went home at the end of the day, you have that sense of relief. You hang out with your family. But these kids nowadays, they're getting bullied while they're sitting on their computer or while they're sitting at home. Like it's just constant. So yeah, it just made
That's
me think of
true.
that.
That's true.
But so you enter high school and now, it's the other side of the coin. Now you're popular. Um, and I'm gonna assume that looking back, being popular, it was kind of a catch-22 because, yeah, you were popular and, you had a bunch of friends and you felt good, but that was that gateway into drinking and drugs. So kinda talk about you know, how did you first get introduced and just, by the time you're a senior, you said you stopped going to class, like, how did it continue to escalate?
Man, when I got a taste of that liquid courage, that alcohol, when I got a taste of that, and I was able to just, because I was insecure. So when it came, and a lot of this came from all of the girls that I liked, they didn't like me in middle school. They would date my friends, maybe even family members, they liked them. So that insecurity hit me hard. So when I got that liquid courage and I started gaining that popularity, I didn't know how to handle it. And it was a mask of really the insecurity of what was going on. So it was a false sense of making me feel like I was somebody now, because
Yeah.
now some of the girls are checking for me. I'm, dating some of them, and that popularity went to my head, to be honest, and I really didn't know how to handle it. So that really it did something to me, because that now not only am I drinking, I'm gambling too. Not as much gambling at that point, but it's leading up to these addictive traits. I'm smoking cigarettes now, skipping school, things that I wouldn't have been doing, if I wasn't searching to be in the in crowd, the popular crowd, and things like that. So it really altered, I believe, the direction that I should have been going in. So, I barely made it into college, and I had my SAT score was terrible. I had to go to summer school. And by this time, my gambling addiction was really, really full fledged. Like, I was gambling every day before getting into college, playing tunk in the neighborhood. It was just a big thing. Now I'm gambling, shooting a little bit of dice with my neighborhood friends. We're gambling on basketball games. Everything was just gambling. Even me playing, gambling against another team that we're playing. So when I got to college, I went to Howard University, and my father was a dean of residence life. So I had my own room on campus. I stayed on campus. And that first year, everything went out of control. And now I'm also smoking weed now. So right out of high school, picked up weed too. So now I'm in college. They called my room the casino, because that's what I did. My whole college experience I missed out on, because I wasn't doing anything but gambling and drinking and doing drugs. So that's when it really escalated, and the money was so good. I mean, Adam, it was like I couldn't lose. I had sheets of people's names and the amount of money they owed me. And back then it wasn't any of this Zelle or Cash
Right.
App or Venmo or anything. So they had to get money from their parents, and then they would pay me what they owed me.
So now
Mhm.
so you were the house?
My room was the casino. I didn't go to any classes. So,
And so you're like, what were you guys doing in there? Was it you versus them, or were you acting as the house and like letting them play blackjack and stuff?
oh no, this was the game Tunk. It's just a card game. I would
Yeah,
be spread.
Explain Tunk.
Yeah. All right. Tunk is, you get 5 cards,
Okay.
and what you're trying to do, you're trying to get the lowest hand and drop and be lower than everybody. So aces count as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you're trying to get all low cards. So you get 5 cards.
No pairs.
No, I'm gonna get to that. So
Okay.
you get 5 cards, you pick up a card, you pluck a card, and you discard one.
Okay.
So the object is to either get the lowest hand and drop before everybody can spread, or get spreads. So the spreads will be like three of a kind, 3 nines, or it'll be like a straight flush. You could spread 6, 7, 8 of this particular suit. So
Okay.
you're either trying to spread the spread to get rid of cards, or you're trying to get real low to drop before people get spreads.
Wow.
So that's Tunk, right? So
That sounds like a combination of like rummy and badoogie and gin and all kinds of stuff.
her too, yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so Malik, I I'm so happy to have you on because, you know, the African American community and just like it hasn't been represented enough, not only in the modern meeting, but just, in recovery spaces in general. And so I want you to take me back to, you know, so far you've been talking about gambling. I haven't heard the word bookie. I haven't heard the word casino. So talk to me a little bit about growing up, what it was like, you know, in these neighborhoods where it's a different form of gambling, but it's triggering the same spots of the brain, right?
That's a great question, and I appreciate you pointing that out. Yeah, I mean, look, the growing up in African American community and being black, growing up in that environment, and remember, I grew up in the crack era. I grew up when things were terrible in the Washington D.C. area. In one of those years, D.C. was the murder capital of the world.
Was this in the 80s,
Yes,
90s?
yes.
Okay.
80s, late mid to late 80s. And
Okay.
that's when all these things, that's when I was in high school and I went to college in 1989. So, it was always a competitive
Hold
type
on,
of.
hold on, hold on, hold on. You went to college in 19 How old are you?
I'm 53.
Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, you look good, man. All right,
Hey,
keep going.
thank you,
Sorry,
Adam.
sorry, sorry.
I definitely don't look like what I've been through. I thank God for that, man. Yeah.
You've lived to 100 in recovery terms, but yeah,
Right.
keep
How
going.
about that? Yeah.
Keep going.
So yeah, man, it was always a lot of, wanting to be flashy or, uh looking good, trying to look better than the next person or show that you have more money than them. So that's the form of, gambling has always been a part of the community I came up in. So
Mm,
whether it was shooting dice or cards, whatever, it was shooting pool, betting on sports games. So I didn't necessarily be with a clique that had bookies, but gambling was always big.
and so, in
Mhm.
your experience, for you and your friends, what was the main motivation? Like, were you trying to make money, or is it more of just like a status thing? Like you said, like you're just trying to beat the other guy, more of a competition?
It was both. It
Yeah,
was both. And then remember, I'm trying to fill a void. So the competitiveness that I had, and I'm a sore loser. I've gotten better over the years, but I don't know anyone that likes losing. But I was terrible with it. So that competitive drive, and then remember trying to fill that void, those insecurities, thinking that money would define me. It would put me on a status where now I could, have these girls, or I could be looked at in a certain light. It was a false identity. So I was chasing that too,
yeah,
and then the material things,
yeah,
the gold, the jewelry, the clothes, putting rims on my vehicles, things like that. So
yeah.
yeah, that was those things attracted me. I was always intrigued by that.
Okay, yeah. And so now you're at Howard University. Your dad is dean, and you're cleaning up. You're making money, so you're not losing. You're chasing people. You're kind of like the bookie. You're the house. So if you're making all this money, tell us how it started going south, and you started. What happened?
Well, it didn't go south for a while.
Yeah,
But what did happen was, now I was introduced to selling crack, because Howard, I didn't live far from my home. So I would stay at campus during the week, and then on weekends, I'll be back with all my old friends. And I started selling crack. And then I started trying crack. And when I started doing that, now I was just like totally all in with everything. Gambling.
yeah,
Now I'm trying to win money to support me drinking alcohol, partying, getting crack, getting weed. I'm smoking weed regularly now. And that's what I did. I used to lace the crack on top of the weed and on top of cigarettes. So that went on. Like I tell people, I said I was on that 10-year never graduate plan at Howard. I never graduated, but I was going off and on. I would go,
wow,
I would go this semester. The first semester I was on academic probation because I never went to class. So I did enough just to stay at Howard. And then the second year I was staying with some friends on campus. And then I would be going back from home to Howard taking maybe 1 or 2 classes, but my main reason to go was to gamble, to play
Yeah.
cards. It was like a group of maybe 15 to 20 guys. That's all we did: gamble, tump, and play spades. So my whole college experience was gambling, drugging, and drinking.
And so
So
for those 10 years, you never did the casino, you never did anything else. It was just what you guys did together in that group of 20.
that's what happened was when I turned 21, because
Yeah,
remember, I skipped the grades. So when I got to
right.
Howard, when I got to college, I went in, I had to go to summer school to get in. I was 16 years old,
Jesus
my first
Christ.
year, and
Yeah,
getting in,
that's
just
way too
about to
young.
turn 17. So
Yeah,
for those first 4 years going to Howard, the casino didn't come into play because I wasn't even 21.
right.
So, but that's a great question. What happened was when I turned 21, that was the first thing I wanted to do was go to the casino. And that's what I
Now
did.
now what casinos were around there in the 90s?
No, I had to drive to Atlantic City then.
Oh, shit,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you guys are still you're what, 3 hours?
Yep.
Yeah,
About 3
yeah,
hours from Atlantic City. So I can't even call it turning point, but something that showed me early on that I had a problem with gambling and alcohol and drugs. I remember going to one of the parties off campus because we would go to these parties, these college parties, and people dancing, they playing all music. Our our clique would be over on the side with a table gambling at the party. So that's how bad it was. So I remember one time we had a card party. This was just a card party, a gambling party. And I go over there, and mind you, I'm so used to winning. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to lose. I go over there, and they clean me up. I lose everything, a lot of money. And I get so drunk. I'm so mad. Remember, the sore loser kicking in. I'm so mad. I'm drunk, and I leave there with an attitude. And I'm driving back to my parents' house because the car party was near there. I'm driving back to their house, and it's a 2-lane road, one way this way, one way the other way, and a cop car is coming, and I jump in front of the cop car, drunk out of my mind, on purpose, because I was that mad that I lost all my money, and that's how I got my first DUI. So the insanity was already there. I was already showing signs of insanity and addiction. But it was a slap on the wrist there. So fast forward, now I get off of that with probation before judgment or something.
but real quick, I gotta ask, like, take us into your mind. So you were so angry that you wanted to get arrested?
I don't even think I wanted to get arrested. I was that mad and drunk that I think I just lost my mind. It
Yeah, I
was
mean,
like,
there's definitely something to that, like they say, like the gambler, the gambler secretly wants to lose. Like that could have subconsciously, not to get you on the couch, but like that could be subconsciously like a cry for help. Like you just wanted, you
I
know what I
love
mean?
that. I love that. And, that gives me a different perspective looking at it. But yeah, there were times, and
Yeah.
that could have been one where I was crying out for help.
Yeah. And
Oh,
now also on those 10 years, you mentioned your loving family. How are you hiding this from all of them?
well, my parents, they traveled a lot. So, and then like I said, I was living on campus with
Right.
some of my friends too. So uh, a lot of times they were out of town. Like even in
Right.
high school, they were out of town. They've been entrepreneurs and in Amway and all these other businesses. So that's when they would go out of town, and I would be the designated party party man. I'll go get the
Yeah.
liquor because I was a big dude. I had a goatee, so I never got carded. I would go get kegs and we'll have parties over my place while they're out of town, and then clean up before they left, almost like
Yeah.
the movie Risky Business, right?
Right.
But so they didn't see a lot of that. Like even with my DUI, the first one, they knew of it, but they were like, okay, he got in trouble, but he's in college, he's not a bad kid, because I was very good at hiding that. I was living a double life for real. They didn't
Yeah.
know about they knew later on about the weed, and they know now about even the harder drugs that I
Yeah.
did. And they know now about the gambling. But they just thought, oh, he's out partying, drinking. That's what
Yeah,
teenagers do.
exactly. Now, knowing that, your last bet and your last drink and drug is around 5 years ago, we got a lot of ground to cover because you're kind of like, it's like turn of the century, around 2000, at the end of that 10-year period.
Yeah, from
So
89 going in to, and like, there's so many things that happen. Like, there were times that I did get away from gambling and drinking, but I was still smoking weed. It was always something, right?
right.
So, like, just to get you there, to get you to that time frame, I want to mention that time when I got that first DUI, that was around 21. So that's when I first got introduced to the casinos too. So I went to the casinos and I was immediately hooked.
Yeah.
The first time I went to the casino, I had in my mind, I said, I'm gonna win $1,000, because guess what? I want to get a system put in my truck, my Jeep, and I want to get some clothes. Sure enough, I go to Atlantic City, I start on the slots, win a couple hundred, and then I get into playing craps because I wanted to. I said, "Oh, we shoot craps in the neighborhood. I'm gonna learn how to play craps at the casino." I win all that money at them and some. But do you think I stopped? No. Nope. I lost all that money back that I won, the money that I said I was going to win
That night.
that same night, within a couple
Yeah.
hours,
Yeah.
and then also drain my bank account. First time ever at the casino.
Yeah.
So fast
Craps
forward,
is
yeah.
craps was my game, and
Mm,
I
you know,
there's nothing more addictive, or honestly, like, not to make it sound good, because it's definitely not, but the greatest gambling high ever is a good craps roll. There's nothing like it.
you already know,
Yeah.
Adam, man, that for
And
years,
that good craps roll, it happens like 1 out of 25 rolls,
absolutely.
and the
Absolutely.
rest of it is just fucking misery.
Yes. Yes. and that's the type of gambler I became. Like, I really studied craps. I went online and came up with all these formulas, tried these different formulas, because that's how deep I was in it. So, just to catch it up to coming to more recent years. Like,
Mhm.
so that happened for multiple times. Going to Atlantic City, losing. I remember even one time I go to Atlantic City, and this was another sign. I go to Atlantic City with a friend of mine, and we're shooting craps. I'm drinking so much, because that crap, like gambling and drinking alcohol, was like peanut butter and jelly to me. I just did that all the time together. So I went and I'm losing so much money with my friend. I'm going to the ATM like five times, pulling out, kept pulling out. So now I'm totally oblivious, drunk out my mind. So now I'm just betting crazy. Each roll, thousands of dollars on one roll. I start winning all my money back. I win all the money back and win a lot of money on top of that. And my friend was like, "Man, you need to go back to the hotel room. You're good now." I looked at him, I said, "Nah, we just getting started." I kept drinking. And the next thing I remember, it was two things I remember. I kept drinking. Next thing I remember was being at the ATM and kept putting in my code, and I kept getting receipts saying my bank account was overdraft. So I don't even remember losing all the money, going back to the ATM multiple times. And then the next memory I had, I was waking up outside on the ground in Atlantic City. This is freezing cold. This is like February, next to an abandoned building. And that did something to me, man. Like I knew then, like I actually shed some tears over that because I was like, it's something wrong with me.
And we will be right back. The Modern Meeting is supported by Evive. Evive is a digital application that is meant to be used by anybody at any stage of their gambling activity. Whether you're just starting to wonder if gambling is becoming a problem, you're actively working on changing your relationship with it, or you're in full recovery, Evive meets you wherever you are. Evive is an accelerant for the stages of change, giving you the tools you need exactly when you need them. Evive offers 24/7 access to interactive journaling, urge management tools, financial literacy resources, and a private community where you can connect with others who get it. It's anonymous, completely judgment-free, and built by people with lived experience. And here's the best part. It's totally free. No subscriptions, no hidden costs. Evive is funded by public health initiatives because this kind of support should be accessible to everyone. If you or someone you know is struggling with gambling, download Evive from the App Store or Google Play. It's like having peer support in your pocket, available anytime you need it. Stay in control of your gambling with Evive. And now, back to the episode. So now, where did you get all the money? Did you work?
Well, remember, I was winning a lot of money
From your friends?
Gambling.
Right.
Gambling in school. Like
Yeah.
that was my lifeline. I was winning a lot of money. But even between then, I worked some odd jobs, part-time here and things like that.
And you were making money dealing crack and stuff. And
That's a part of it too. It's selling weed and selling crack. But a lot of that, honestly, I started smoking the cracks. You see what I'm saying? So I started not really making, it was just enough to wash clean. You know what I mean? So, you know, these are all the things going on. And, you know, from like around that age, like 23, 24, my brother was a producer and he ended up getting signed by Madonna's record label, Maverick. So I moved out to LA with him. So that was a period of time where I was still drinking and smoking weed, but I wasn't gambling and smoking crack, lacing crack out there. So after I went out LA, I moved to Atlanta with my brother. I tried to be a rapper for a minute. That didn't work out. So I come back to Maryland, and from that point, I worked some jobs, and then I started my business, a moving company. I'm still in business, K&M Delivery and Moving, 25 years in April. Started that business, and what happened was I put in like 6-7 years of grinding to get that business up and running. So right now, let's say I'm around 35, 36, when that business got off the ground. That's when the shift happened. At that point, I had an 800 credit score. I bought my first condo. I bought 2 vehicles. I had money in the bank, and I was traveling. I was able to go on vacations and deal with the women that I like. And what happened was I took the foot off the gas, and I said to myself, I'm good now. I've achieved the American dream. I've reached all my goals, and I didn't have any more goals set for myself, set to accomplish. So when I did that, that's when I got back into gambling and drinking heavy, because I was always drinking. But even when I was doing my business, it was like controlled drinking. I might drink here and there. I was smoking weed every day and cigarettes, but drinking and gambling, I wasn't doing that. So
that's so fascinating. So it's like, so you go through that those you go through your 20s, you're doing the AC, you're going crazy. You go to LA, you go to Atlanta, and then once you decide, you know, to start a business, how do you explain was it like what went off in your mind that made you stop abusing all those things?
Adam, man, you asking some great questions. And the thing is, like, it was always something in me that knew I didn't want to end up, like so many people I've seen. It was always something in me saying, it's better. You're better than this. And looking back at it now, I can only give credit to God,
Yeah.
and that's how I'm looking at it. And it was always that voice saying, you're better than this, you know? And then that part of not wanting to let my family down too, they raised me right and everything. And now I'm going to throw it all away. And I was always scared to be like addicted to crack, or I was always scared of that.
So you weren't even dabbling in gambling for those 6 years getting the business off the ground?
It might have been here and there. It might
But
have been like
nothing.
somebody would throw a party or have a car party,
Right.
but it wasn't. No, it was not
Right.
my focus at all. I was really working 14-hour days learning
Yeah.
about business.
It's amazing because there's different points in my life where either I got a really good job or I had a really good opportunity with some stuff, but I couldn't. I always kept gambling. I couldn't. Yeah. So that's amazing. So sorry, not to. So now you take your foot off the gas.
Yes, yes. And
The
guess,
business is off the ground. You're a
yes,
business owner. You're making good money. You've
yes,
got an 800 credit score, and
yes.
you say all of a sudden the gambling started to creep back in and the drinking.
And guess what was big right at that time?
Hold on. Let me try to guess. 35, so I was like 20. Oh, the poker boom.
Yes, Texas Hold'em.
Oh,
So it was a perfect combination for a storm, man.
oh man.
And
Tell me
so
everything. Tell me
I went
everything.
head in, man. Like, started throwing poker parties over my house. I knew several guys that we had now I have a new clique of guys, new group. They're throwing poker parties. And I just got addicted to it because cards was always my thing. Remember, I
Yeah.
started on cards,
Tunk.
spades and tonk. Yeah. So I was like, man, this is for me. So now, and I'm like, I got people running. I have people running my company now. So now I can go whenever I want. So
Yeah.
this is where it got bad for me. I started, and at this time, Maryland Live, MGM, Horseshoe, they still weren't built yet in Maryland. So
So you're still going to AC.
now I'm going to Dover Downs, Dover,
Oh,
Delaware.
okay.
That became,
They had poker?
yes,
Oh,
yes,
wow.
yes.
Okay. I didn't
That,
know they had
that,
poker.
that became my spot. That became where I thought I was big shot because
Yeah.
they gave me credit. They comped me rooms, suites.
Yeah.
Also, I started going real hard.
Now, we obviously know that it's not about the money and the numbers don't mean anything, but just to give a little bit of context, like, and you don't have to if you don't want to, we can cut this, but like, what are you now that you're like the business owner? Did the amount that you were risking go way up from like when you were in your 20s?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I was always a risk taker too. So
Yeah.
yeah. Oh,
So
definitely.
like, are you playing like 2-5 no limit, or are you playing like bigger than that? Or
No,
like, what do
no,
you,
probably 2-5.
yeah.
1, 2, and 2-5,
Yeah.
but willing to to
Yeah.
to go all in with it though.
Sure. Sure.
So
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
but then, like I said, on the craps table, I'm going crazy at this point.
Right.
I'm taking a couple thousand up there, knowing that if I lose that, they'll give me maybe 10,000. They'll spot me that because they know
Oh,
my,
so now you're taking out markers
yes, yes,
because you got the good credit
because I got the good credit and
and you got the
I'm a
good
regular.
W-2.
I'm a
Yeah.
regular, so I know
Yeah.
everybody in there. And this is the delusion, Adam. I think these people love me. At
Yeah.
that time, I'm thinking they love me. I'm like, yeah, they care about me. They love me. and all of that. It was really delusional, man. That big
Yeah.
shot mentality, thinking that I'm somebody special.
And now, so when this is happening, is the drinking and the drugs, are they all kind of neck and neck, or is one of them worse than the other?
Well, the alcohol is definitely escalating with the
Okay.
gambling. The
Y-
alcohol, the weed smoking, oh, that was just a part of me every day.
Right.
I've been pretty much was smoking every weed every day since I was right out of high school, every day for the rest of my life. I mean,
Yeah.
till I got clean.
Right.
So,
Right.
you know, and now the messing around with the crack was not as much, maybe here and there, but it was definitely alcohol, weed, and gambling,
Yeah.
all neck and neck. They were all a part of just every day
Yeah.
at that point.
So, you're obviously, and it's, I say this all the time where it's like, it's one thing for not to compare, but just, if you're someone like me who, I was always gambling alone, didn't have a family, didn't make a ton of money. Like, I just feel like it could be easier for someone in that set of circumstances to stop. Where if you're a business owner, if you're making money, if you have people working for you, if you're taking out markers with the casino, that's a lot to let go of, because like you said, it's a lot of delusional, fake positive stuff. You know what I mean? So it's like, I guess my question is, with all of this going on, what brought you to the point where you realize you have to stop, and what did you stop first?
Great, great, man. Look, I you're absolutely right. It did seem like it was a lot to let go, especially being accustomed to doing that regularly now. But what happened is, and I'm gonna try to sum this up, is what happened was, number one, catching number one was crashing my vehicle into a tree, and really believing that that was the first time that I had a encounter with God, because I was out drinking with at the bar with a young lady, and of course I did what I normally do, overdid it. And this is when I moved from my condo, now living somewhere else. I got so drunk at that bar with her. When I got in the car, I drove to the condo where I thought I still lived, and I blacked out before going up to the entrance in the condo, and it was a wooded area, and I ran off into the trees, smacked into a tree, airbag came out, and come to find out the next day that behind that tree that I hit was a 200-foot drop or so to the sewer system. And that was the first time when, and I mind you, I was still gambling and doing all of that, but that was the first time where I was like, there has to be a God. There's something, because there's no way this happened and I leave out of here with just a tiny scratch on my arm. And so there were no consequences for a long time. So when that happened, I said, you know what? I'm staying away from drinking. I'm going to stay away from the casino. But I kept smoking weed. I knew I wasn't stopping smoking weed. I knew I wasn't going to stop that at that time.
Mm.
That lasted for every bit of maybe a month, 3 weeks.
Mm.
And what happened? 6 months later, I caught my second DUI. And this was at the age 40. It started to be things like that happening, where everything just started to turn into problems. Like they say, your addiction, it starts out as fun, then it becomes fun with problems, and then the next thing you know, it's all problems.
Mm.
And that's what happened. So things just started happening back to back. I'm going to casinos now. I'm losing all my money. I'm getting in domestic disputes. I'm getting in fights. I'm losing my phone every time I go. It was just all these things that just kept happening that I was like, this is crazy. And then when I took money out of my IRA, when I saved that money for 20 years, and I took a lot of money out of my IRA, that was like the beginning of understanding that you need help. So what happened for me? Well, now I'm doing harder drugs. Now I'm back to lacing crack. I'm popping pills, mollies, ecstasy. I'm even smoking PCP now, because now I'm just trying to be numb. I'm trying to be put out of my misery because I know that I have gotten to a place where I never thought I would imagine that I could go, to the point where I didn't even want to come out of my apartment anymore. I just wanted to stay there and get high and just block out the world. So I finally got to a place, man. After my second DUI, I was introduced to AA and Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and I had to go to AA a certain amount of times. And even though I wasn't ready at that time, it planted a seed. So I did the same thing with gambling. I banned myself from the casino. Well, first, I started going to GA meetings, and I met a young lady at the casino, and our relationship was so toxic, man. It was so messed up, man. Like, it was terrible. And it was bad enough for me to say, man, I need help. I need to start going to GA, because she, come to find out, I believe she suffers from it too, from that compulsive gambling. I believe she did at that time. Yeah. So it was just toxic. So after that, I started going to GA, and I didn't stay. And then by now, this time, they now have built Maryland Live and Horseshoe. So I started going to them, banned myself from them. And then I said, all right, you're not going to gamble as much, but I kept driving to Dover to gamble, and I drove to West Virginia. So it got so bad. It got so bad that I started saying, I need God. I'm going to try God. And that's what I did, man. I remember just saying, God, if you're real, Christ, if you're real, Jesus, if you're real, reveal yourself to me, show me, because that's where I was now. And at this time I was totally isolated. I didn't want anybody to see me or know what I was going through. So I started doing that at 43. At age 43, I gave my life to Christ, and I started going to church. I started developing a relationship with God and brothers and sisters in the church. And I just kept going. And even though I didn't stop going to the casinos and drinking and drugging, I just kept going. And it got to a point where I said, I don't want to be a hypocrite. I don't want to live like this anymore. I believe God is real. I don't want to keep doing this. So it took me 6 years, from 43 to 49 years old. That's when I checked myself into rehab at 49. And that was in 2021. And it was two things that happened that year that I knew my time was running out. Because I really started believing God was telling me that, Malik, if you don't go get help, you're gonna kill somebody, drunk driving, or you're gonna kill yourself. I started feeling that so strong, and it scared me. And in 2021, that same girl that I used to date, I saw her at a casino, and it was just a bad vibe with us. Nothing happened. And then I go back to the liquor store in West Virginia. I go to the liquor store. Well, actually, it was a 7-Eleven, because they sell liquor there. And I had just finished drinking a pint of Hennessy. I'm at the casino. I have a room at the casino. I'm in the parking lot, see her. I'm drinking my Hennessy, just finished drinking a pint. I go back to the 7-Eleven, and I'm in the parking lot, and 3 West Virginia police officers knock on my window. And they say, we got a call that you've been sitting here. And I said, sir, I just pulled up. I haven't been here. And they said, do you have any drugs or weapons on you? And I had weed on me, and mind you, I had the empty bottle of Hennessy. And they said, I smell liquor. We're gonna do a sobriety field test. They took me out, did the test. I had to blow in the breathalyzer. And at that point, I began to plead with these officers, and I asked them for some grace. And I told them I had already 2 DUIs. If you get me with this third DUI, I'm done. I'm gonna lose my license, which I use for my business. I said, officers, please show me some grace. I was like, I'm not causing any problems. I'm up here. I'm going through something right now. I'm gambling. I'm not, man, I blew a .0825. They could have locked me up. But the grace of God and God touching their heart, which I really believe, they said, you know what? And when I got out the car, I threw the weed under my car. I tried to hide it. He went back to his dash cam and saw that, and he said, is this your weed? And I said, yeah. So they did not lock me up. I'm in West Virginia. And they were like, look, I talked to the people in 7-Eleven. You could keep your car here. You can't drive back to the casino hotel. And I was like, man, this is the best walk I'm going to take in my life. And that happened the same year I checked in the rehab. And then the last thing I'm going to mention is going to Atlantic City that last time. I was on a binge, full out binge. I started drinking at like 9 a.m. and I was gambling all day and drinking and getting high. I even went and picked up some crack out there. And I'm high all day. It's like 4 a.m. and I'm walking back to my room, I think to get some more weed or get some more liquor or something. And it's this man out there, and we just got to talking, and he began to tell me about his addiction. And I began to share with him about what I was going through, what my life has been looking like. And at the end of that conversation, I said, it's good meeting you, man. I'm about to go back in to the casino, and I'm about to go back in. And he looked at me and he said, you need to take your butt to sleep, and you need rehab. When he said that, Adam, this was the first time it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, yeah, family had already said that. Some people, because my skirt started showing, they knew that a lot of people knew I was full blown in alcoholism and gambling addiction. A lot of people knew because I told certain people, but they would be like, you ever thought about rehab? I'm like, man, I can't leave my business for 30 days or whatever. When he said it this time, I knew something happened. I really believe God used him, because when I got back to my room, I didn't go back in the casino. I got back to my room and I couldn't even sleep. All I could hear was that. And I got on the road like 2 hours later. And it was one of those things I had to get out of there, because I knew if I stayed another minute, I was going to go all the way in. I started calling rehab facilities on my way home, driving home from Atlantic City. And they said, yes, they take my insurance for 100%. And they were like, you could come right now. I was like, nah, I can't come right now. Let me finish out my work schedule of moving jobs. And I marked off that last day I had a moving job. And I called them back the day before and I checked myself in the rehab. And that's when I fully surrendered. And I gave it all to God, and I turned it over. And I said, God, it's no longer my will, it's your will. Because I knew I wasn't going to make it another 6 months. And from there, man, things just turned around. Everything is turned around. I went in rehab. And the last thing I'm going to say is this. I went into rehab and still had another challenge. I'm in rehab, and I did everything they said, everything they suggested. I picked up a service position in rehab. I was taking out the trash and mopping the kitchen floor. I led some meetings in there. I even started a Bible study in there. I was helping people in there, even in my state. I did all of the material, the reading material. I did all of that. Everything. I was a sponge in there because I was finally at the point where I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I knew enough was enough for me. And the last 6 days of that, I'm playing basketball in rehab and tear my Achilles tendon in rehab. And I had to get rushed to the hospital. And one of my friends at the time came up to the hospital and she was like, Malik, just come home with me. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of you. You don't have to do anything. My first thought was like, I'm going home with her. And then I heard her. It wasn't an audible voice, but I do believe God spoke to me and said, you're not going with her. You're going back to rehab. You're going to finish that out. And thank God I did, Adam, because I knew if I left with her, the first stop was the liquor store, and the second move was calling my plug to get me something. And when I got back to my room, it was a plate on my bed, a paper plate. Everybody in the community wrote a letter to me how much I meant to them. And I busted out crying, man, because I knew how close I was to missing it. And thank God, man, I haven't looked back since, man. From rehab, I went to an organization. I started taking classes. I'm a certified peer recovery specialist now. And then I went and got my certification to be an addiction recovery coach. I wrote a book. It's called Overcoming Addiction Through Grace. This is my book right here. And I also started my recovery coaching business. It's called Amazing Grace Recovery. And, we work together with the LEAP. So, man, it's just been a full 180 flip, man, when I really surrendered and started taking suggestions, man. So that's where I'm at now, man. So
I have never been more comfortable I don't think I've spoken for the last 12 minutes, and I've been hanging on every word you've said. I mean, what a fucking story, Malik. I mean, I have so many questions, but we're running out of time. I got to have you back on, but just a couple quick questions. So I'm so fascinated by that period where you're going to church, yet you're still in active addiction. I got to know, like, what was like, obviously, like, you feel like a hypocrite, but like, what did you ever open up to anyone like that you went to church with, or was it you just going to church by yourself? It was just kind of you and God, or what was that period like?
Man, I'm glad you asked that, Adam. And that period was, at first, the young lady I was telling you about, we tried to go to church together, but this was an inside job. This was something that I wanted because I knew my life was falling apart, right? So, yes, that's another thing about my journey. I've been transparent the whole time. So I told my pastor at the time, that at that church, what I was going through, what I was struggling with. And I knew from just because I didn't grow up in church. I didn't grow up believing in God. But I knew from me seeking God on my own and seeing God's word come to life, seeing the Bible come to life in my life, and seeing so much truth in it, I believed it. And I was like, man, but the problem was I believed God could heal them and do this for them. I believed that, but I questioned, could he do it for me? And that I kept going back, man, no matter what. But, and the thing is, faith without works is dead. So to be 100% transparent, it was a mixture of the AA, GA, God, the network, praying, working the steps, getting a sponsor. I got a therapist. I got a psychiatrist. I had all of those things. And it was a mixture of all of that. But I do believe God uses all those things to help us, to resources. So that's that was my journey. That was my pathway. And I don't force that on anyone because I do believe there's multiple pathways to in recovery. But I do recommend it and suggest all of those things. At least trying God, at least trying the AA, trying the steps, all of those things. So that's the best way. I hope that answers what you asked.
And I had another question, but honestly, that was so fucking perfect. We're gonna end right there. That was a perfect bow on everything. Malik, where can you mentioned it, but tell us again, like where can people find you? And I know you mentioned that you have a group.
Yes. Yes, man. My freedom from addiction, it's on Facebook. I have a Facebook group community. And if anybody out there is, just wants a safe space, a safe place where we come together, we just want to share and keep the opportunity open to talk about things that we go through as we're battling and struggling with addiction, and for those that are recovered to come back and give back. So I definitely wanted to share that. And then also I do one-on-one coaching as well. And I hope, Adam, you will let me, I can send you the information that you could put into the description, or the
Absolutely.
links you could put in. And if you want to schedule a 45-minute strategy call where we could just talk,
Yeah.
no cost, no obligation. Just we could talk, and I can get a better idea of where you are, what you're going through, and I can share with you how I'm helping other people, because this is my purpose. This is my focus now, to help others overcome their addiction, at least get to a place where they have hope and don't
Yeah.
believe that this is impossible, because recovery is definitely possible.
Yeah. Malik, I mean, I had pretty high expectations going into this, but you went way past those, my friend. This has been amazing. Yeah, just thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing, I mean, all your experience, strength, and hope. It's yeah, I'm speechless.
Hey, thank you, Adam, man. I really appreciate you having me, and keep doing great work, man. Keep doing what you're doing.
Amen,
We
brother. And
we
this, like
need
I
each
said, this
other in
won't
this, man. So I appreciate
definitely,
you.
and this won't be the last time I have you on. So we will definitely have you back on, and all everything that Malik is working on, it'll be in the description of the YouTube video, and if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, for sure. But
Okay,
Malik,
and
thank you for
also,
being on the Modern Meeting.
man, if I can, I will
Yeah.
leave the link for my book too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's just it's a lot more of my story is in there, and
Yeah.
then just practical things that I did that I know thousands of people have done to recover, as well as some spiritual principles in there too. So I
Yeah. I
definitely appreciate you, Adam, and I look forward to linking up with you again soon.
Yeah, and I say it almost at the end of every episode, like we're gonna have you on again. And if I'm being honest, like I'm probably not gonna have those people on again. I really am gonna have you on again because I have so many more questions for you. But we got to keep it around an hour. But no, so yeah, definitely gonna have you back. But thank you so much, Malik, for being
Hey,
on the
thank
Modern
you,
Meeting.
Adam, man. I appreciate you, man. God bless, man.
All right, we'll be
Okay.
right back.